Alright, ladies, and I think feminism is bullshit. Because it's men who gave you the right to even debate feminism. Equality isn't a default law of nature. That is a luxury. That is the outcome. It only exists because man built safe, highly automated, resource surplus world where muscles temporarily, only temporarily, well, let it be forever, but temporarily stopped being the defining force. If women were to follow their ideology, they would have to enforce on themselves the exact same constraints they are objecting, but in the greater degree, in more regulated and mandatory way. So the feminist ideology contradicts itself. As the world is dynamic and no one promises that tomorrow world order doesn't undergo a big turbulence as it used to happen every now and then. But they're putting their well-being on the line for the sake of maintaining this delusion. Well, I think it's not reasonable to me, actually. Rights always emerge from utility and force. Have you ever in your life met a genuinely happy feminist? Think about it. They don't exist. Why? Because feminism is a social construct. It's not nature, it's an armor. Why? Well, first, it's a total misallocation of female potential, either out of profound fear of vulnerability or used as a tool to compensate for lack of authenticity. Okay? It's looking for validation when you don't know who you are. But there are natural ways for women to be empowered, but not this construct. Like when a real crisis hits, instead of playing by the law of nature, like where heavy, like ultimate responsibility falls squarely on the man, the woman becomes a competitor, whereas she has to support her man. They want to compete with men in the boardroom, but the second things get dangerous, they're looking for protection. Financially, physically, etc. Look at what hypercapitalism did to women under the guise of liberation. It sold them corporate cubicles as freedom, hookup culture as empowerment, and relentless consumerism as therapy. This isn't about devaluing women, no, not at all. This is just raw hard physics. Civilization requires a material baseline to survive. Heavy industry, metallurgy, resource extraction, power grids. Picture going deep into the pits, swinging heavy picks at solid rock, hauling tons of raw ore. What happens next? Max Weber famously defined the state as a monopoly on the legitimate use of violence, and who physically holds that monopoly? Correct. Man. The army, the police, the security apparatus. Imagine if the legal fabric cheers tomorrow, if chaos takes over. All those paper rights vanish in a heartbeat. Only raw force remains. So, in a symmetrical sense, women's rights are a derivative. They are a byproduct of a male-secured framework. Okay? Because you want equal rights. Totally understandable. What about having equal obligations? Well, do you want to work in the mines? Well, here, math doesn't add up. You wouldn't be physically able to do it. And secondly, that would lead to a complete extinction. And I'm not here to insult you. I'm here to explain that feminism is a derivative of the society, of the world that man built. Yes, driven by a desire to please their woman, driven by the inspiration the women gave, but pretending that you inherently have the same rights. Well, I guess that's not fair. Because back in the day, the rights that people had was defined by their utility. If you had strength, you had some privilege. If you didn't have strength, you didn't have privilege. But now we have legislation which was built primarily by men to actually establish this kind of society where you have ability to debate feminism. I'm not trying to devaluate you. I'm just saying that you claim the rights as if they're inherently yours. But at the same time, you don't want to share the same obligations. Yet, you do not recognize that all the rights you have is a derivative of man's hard labor. I do respect you, but I want you to switch from defensive mentality of I'm so vulnerable, I'm so insecure that I'd rather be on my own, I'd rather claim the same rights, I'd rather pretend to be as strong as man just to not be vulnerable. But see, this path will lead you to worse outcome than just complying with the nature's rules. And then you will flourish, you will prosper by admitting your God-given role, because God is king, because God created you as a woman. You are meant to be weaker. You're meant to be not as strong. But capitalism is redefining this. When you compete with men, you are going against God's intention. God didn't mean you to be artificially strong. You have to be a good mother, a good girlfriend. You have to put all the effort into making your man happy. And that, exactly that, will get you to reap all the benefits of this world. Because on your own, you wouldn't survive. Just as we wouldn't survive without you. So overall, feminism is indeed bullshit. But it doesn't mean that you are less valuable than we are. We are equal, but in a different kind of way. Thank you. And share this video, and make sure to smash the like button and subscribe. And click on the bell so you don't miss next episodes. Because here I'm trying to debunk the myths that society has imposed on you. Take care.